With an animated short. Walt would have Woolly Reitherman to direct, despite the fact that Woolly wanted nothing to do with it. Reitherman was Disney's man of action, so the thought of having to deal with a bunch of cuddly stuffed animals wasn't exactly his cup of tea. Meanwhile, fans of the original books, such as Frank Thomas, Ollie Johnston, and Milt Kahl, were denied access to the film. Walt's fear was that they would treat the stories as a sacred text, and that the original books were too precious to be altered. But one thing did become immediately clear. They couldn't just give the 100-Acre Wood the standard Disney makeover. They would need to treat the book itself as a character, not just a prop at the start of the show, but a living, breathing part of the world where the characters lived and played. At the time, Disney was already in the midst of a massive technical shift, leaving behind the days of ink and paint for the less expensive xerography. And while this new style might have seemed like a natural fit for Winnie the Pooh, it wasn't without its issues. The photocopied images often left a halo of toner dust around the characters' outlines, which made the animation look hairy or jittery. For a film like 101 Dalmatians, that grittiness worked, but for Pooh and his friends, it was kind of a disaster. The ink and paint department had to go back in and manually clean up those lines to ensure that Pooh looked like a soft nursery toy, rather than a dirty old bear. Treating the book as a living set also brought its own set of challenges for the layout artists. Letters had to be sturdy enough to bounce on while still maintaining the look and feel of the original 1920s storybook, and animators had to do their part to make sure Pooh never fell into the binding. The final result was the 1966 animated short, Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree. Disney would follow that up with 1968's Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day, which would win an Academy Award for Best Animated Short, and then Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2 in 1974. But by the time the third animated short was released, Disney found themselves in a bit of a tricky situation. Winnie the Pooh had turned into a merchandising juggernaut, but the studio itself had fallen on hard times after the death of Walt Disney. There wasn't enough money in the budget to create a brand new feature-length Winnie the Pooh film from scratch, but with audiences clamoring for more, Disney saw an opportunity. They could repackage the three animated shorts together, add a bit of new animation to tie the stories together, and give us a satisfying new ending, all while not breaking the bank for the studio. The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh stars Sterling Holloway as Pooh, Paul Winchell as Tigger, Barbara Luddy as Kanga, Junius Matthews as Rabbit, John Fiedler as Piglet, Ralph Wright as Eeyore, Hal Smith as Owl, and Sebastian Cabot as the film's narrator.
Now, one fine day, the east wind traded places with the west wind, and that stirred things up a bit all through the 100-Acre Wood.
Roo was originally voiced by Ron Howard's younger brother Clint, but with the release of Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2, Dory Whitaker would take over that role. And that leaves us with Christopher Robin, who is voiced by no less than 4 different people in the film. For the original Honey Tree short, director Willie Reitherman tabbed his son Bruce, who had already voiced Mowgli in The Jungle Book, to play the part. But when the film was first screened for an English audience, Disney received an urgent wire begging them to dub over Reitherman's dialogue. The general consensus was that if an English audience heard an American accent coming from their beloved Christopher Robin, they would lose their collective minds. And believe it or not, Disney agreed to re-record the dialogue, bringing in British actor John Walmsley.
Well, if we can't pull you out, Pooh, perhaps we can push you back. Well, if we can't pull you out, Pooh, perhaps we can push you back.
Walmsley would continue to voice Christopher Robin in Blustery Day, but when it came time for the third installment, he had outgrown the role, and Disney brought in a third voice, Timothy Turner.
Hello, Pooh. Hello, Piglet. What's up?
Of course, by the time they were ready to produce The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, Turner had also outgrown the role, and they needed someone to record dialogue for the final scene of the film. And with John Walmsley providing all the dialogue for Honey Tree and Blustery Day, before handing things off to Timothy Turner for the Tigger segment, and finally closing out with Connor Quinn in the final scene. I think I have a nosebleed. And I'm just now realizing that John Walmsley also played the tuba in Disney's one and only genuine original family band.
You done it again. You booped when you should have umpired.
I'm sorry, Grandpa.
Such a good movie. Turning our attention back to the animals of the 100-Acre Wood, we have a venerable treasure trove of Disney veterans, starting with the Big Bear himself.
You've been at it an hour now.
It looks like a rather blustery day today.
He often stated that Winnie the Pooh was his favorite role out of everything he ever did for Disney. And while I hate to disagree, I always enjoyed him just a little bit more as the Cheshire Cat. He also lent his voice to a considerable amount of Disneyland records. And while Pooh is the undisputed champion of his own story, it didn't take long for audiences to fall in love with a certain striped character when he pounced onto the scene.
Hello out there. Oh, I hope nobody answers.
Hello, I'm Tigger.
Ventriloquist Paul Winchell didn't join the franchise until Blustery Day, but that didn't stop him from making an immediate impact. Tigger's signature hoo-hoo-hoo was something Winchell came up with on his own. He also based his erratic, energetic speech patterns on his own background in ventriloquism. His work outside of Winnie the Pooh isn't as prolific as his co-stars, but you would find him in The Fox and the Hound, where he played the woodpecker version of Tigger.
Oh, sure, Dickie. This is the place. I never forget a tree. I never forget a tree.
And if you are a Disney afternoon cartoon fan, you might also remember him as Zoomy from Adventures of the Gummy Bears.
Well, you know, Tommy, sometimes you have to just say no.
Kanga was voiced by the always delightful Barbara Luddy, whose voice Disney fans had already heard in Sleeping Beauty,
I'd like to turn her into a fat old hot tub.
as well as Lady and the Tramp.
And you needn't worry about your old heels.
My heel.
I don't need you to shelter and protect me.
Yes, but
If you got careless, don't blame me. And I don't care if the Cossacks do pick you up. Goodbye.
Junius Matthews was best known for playing not only Rabbit, but also Archimedes in The Sword and the Stone.
Stuff. I beg your pardon. Now, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
oh, here.
Good.
John Fiedler spread his Disney work across several decades, as along with Piglet, he would appear in Robin Hood, and even the old man who throws off the Emperor's Groove.
Where's the groove?
Hey, are you gonna be all right?
It's the best house in the whole world.
Tell them it's your house, Piglet.
No, Pooh.
Ralph Wright wasn't an actor at all, but rather one of Disney's story men, having helped write films like Bambi, Lady and the Tramp, and The Jungle Book. The animators realized that Wright's naturally slow, monotone way of speaking was exactly how Eeyore should sound.
Thanks. There's not much of a tail, but I'm sort of attached to it.
He basically just walked into the recording booth and spoke as himself. Of all the Disney characters to have ever graced a Disneyland record, I think I can safely say that nobody tops Winnie the Pooh in terms of sheer numbers. His collection of records extends beyond your basic song albums, storytellers, and read-alongs to include birthday parties, poetry, and brand new adventures. The Mini Adventures of Winnie the Pooh features songs by Richard and Robert Sherman, and a score by my guy, Buddy Baker. And if you've been following this channel for long, you know what that means. Disney never released a proper soundtrack for the film.
I am shush.
But there is some good news. I have no idea how they pulled it off, but you can find a fan-made version of the soundtrack over at the Internet Archive. As near as I can tell, it features all of the Sherman Brothers songs and the Buddy Baker score, and it sounds fantastic. I will put a link in the description below, so you can check it out for yourself. Now you may have noticed that I failed to mention one of the film's characters earlier, a whistling demolitions expert who made it abundantly clear.
I'm not in the boss, but I'm at your service.
So let's talk about Gopher real quick. When Disney set out to produce Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree, the studio's marketing team was a bit worried that the 100-acre wood was too British for U.S. audiences. Disney was still feeling the sting from the lukewarm reception of Alice in Wonderland, and so for my own dealings here on YouTube, I have learned the hard way that my friends across the pond take great pride in their country's products, whether that's works of literature, national landmarks, or names of towns that I can't seem to pronounce properly. The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh hit theaters on March 11, 1977. And while it wasn't a massive hit at the time for Disney, it was still considered a high watermark during the down years of the 1970s. But the franchise this film would launch is almost staggering. And the question that I asked myself when I set out to research this video was why? What makes Winnie the Pooh so special? Certainly, if you were to ask 10 different people, you'd probably get 10 different answers, and none of them would be wrong.
Happy Wednesday, you all!
Thanks for noticing me.
As I watched it for the first time in, well, quite a while, I was amazed at how my feelings about the film had changed. I had always thought of it as kiddie stuff, offering little for a grown-up audience. But I was wrong. In a world that practically demands our attention, that tells us that we must be doing something at all times, Winnie the Pooh asks you to take a step back, to do nothing. And honestly, I think you'll be surprised at how much good can come from just a little bit of nothing.
And Pooh, promise you won't forget me? Ever?
Oh, I won't, Christopher. I promise.
So until next time, my name is Jay,